Hey, it's Botanical Brian, and welcome to week number 14 of Colonial Kids Club Learning Garden. We are on a virtual field trip today visiting Lynn Solier, and Lynn is our new health and wellness coordinator at Colonial Gardens. We are so happy to have Lynn as part of our Colonial Gardens team. Lynn is extremely talented, and one of her many talents is beekeeping. And Lynn has agreed to teach us today about one of our most important pollinators, the honeybee. Lynn, thank you so much for having us.
You are so welcome, Brian. I'm so happy to be here today in the garden with the kids and the bees. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about our hive. So first I wanted to just show it to you back here, if you could see it behind me. Um, this is what's called a top bar hive. So what that means is that the bees are actually going to be building honeycomb on a little bar that hangs from the top of the hive. And when they build their comb that way, it hangs down in sheets. So it's very interesting the way they do that. And each sheet is separate from the one before it or behind it. And then there's a little tiny bit of space between each of those sheets hanging down there. So they're building their comb, and they also have room to go around and between those sheets to get to the next set of comb. And I bet you didn't know this, but there's a queen in there that's about 2 years old. And 2 years is about the lifespan of a queen. And all of her worker bees in there, they are actually girls. So all the worker bees are going to go out, they're going to pollinate the flowers, they're going to get nectar, pollen, and they're going to bring it back to this hive. And I'm going to let you come in just a little bit closer to kind of see what's happening on the inside of the hive. If you'd like to do that. I'm just going to show you where the bees are actually going into the hive. You can see them crawling in and out. There's a slit there. And earlier in the year, I put sugar water right there for them to have when it was cold and when it was wet and it was kind of dreary outside and there really wasn't anything for them to eat. So they really needed to have some sugar water early on to get them through those cold, rainy days. So I wanted to show you too that if we just gently, without disturbing too much, take off this front little panel here. And I want you to see in the hive, if you can, there are sheets of honeycomb hanging there. And you can also see the bees kind of crawling over onto, in the beginning, there is a little cage where the queen was installed into the hive. So she crawled out of that and started to make her way into the hive. So what she's doing in there is she's laying lots of little eggs. Those are the new honeybees, the ones that go out and forage around, and there'll also be maybe some drone in there as well, which are the male bees. So you can see the hive is quite big, and eventually it'll get so big that I will have to move this back to another location. So right further back, as they start to expand the hive, that way I'll have to move it back. Okay? All right, so I wanted you to see also down here that there have been some logs placed next to the hive. And in my research in the last couple of years, what we found out is there's certain kind of mushrooms that the bees will actually come out of the hive and consume to keep their intestinal flora healthy and their immune system really strong. So there have been holes that have been drilled into the log every so many inches, and there's been spores of mushrooms that have been put down into these logs and then covered over with wax. So these logs, they'll stay pretty moist down here on the ground, and they will start to sprout some mushrooms here probably in the next few months. So those bees will come out and they will eat the mushrooms to keep their intestinal flora very healthy and to keep the hive strong.
So that's why we put these mushrooms down here on the ground.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about honey today and why it's so important for us to eat honey, especially in the early springtime. We want to be consuming a little bit of honey every day. And the reason for that is we're increasing our immune system's ability to fight off infections or any kind of bad health that maybe is coming our way. So we're taking a little bit of honey every day, and we're also in, getting inoculated, so to speak, from all the different kinds of plants and flowers that are in our backyard. So that's what we want to do to avoid allergies and springtime hay fever and coughing and sneezing and watery eyes. So if we're taking a little bit of honey every day, we're increasing our resistance and we're assimilating or bringing those plants into our body in a really good way. And here's something you might not have known about honey is that it's really great for, let's say that you fall down and you get a scrape or a boo-boo on your knee, and you wonder, well, I wonder if I could put that on there. It's actually a very, very good wound healer. So they used it way back in the day to heal wounds of every single kind. They would just put a small layer of the honey on there, and they would cover it with a bandage, and then it would help to heal those wounds. Here's another thing about honey that maybe you didn't know is that in the lifetime of a worker bee, she is going to actually go out and she's going to collect the nectar from the flowers, and she's going to convert it in her body to a sugary substance, that honey. And in her whole lifetime, she's only going to make 1/10 of a teaspoon of honey. Isn't that amazing? So can you imagine how many flowers she has to visit to make that 1/10 of a teaspoon of honey? Just like thousands of different flowers and blossoms and blooms. So as she's traveling out and doing that, she's creating what we call pollination. So she's actually helping that flower to reproduce itself as well. So great pollinator, the honeybee. So you might be watching in your own garden. Maybe you have different kinds of bees. Maybe not just the honeybee, but maybe there's other kind of pollinator bees out in your garden as well. So you might be wanting to look out for those as well.
Thank you so much, Lynn. That was so informative and lots of fun. I had no idea that it was female bees doing all the work out there with the pollen and with the nectar. And so if you guys get a chance, get outside and observe some bees and check out what they're doing and watch them do all their work that they're doing. If you can get some pictures and post them, that'd be even better. And come on back next week and we'll talk more about the pollinator garden.